everyone, Dean Seifert here with BirdReel. Today we're going to go through a quick tutorial of the best way to clean your BirdReel Smart Bird Feeder camera. Now, all we really need is some Dawn dishwashing liquid. We need some kind of washcloth that is not abrasive. So I wouldn't use anything abrasive on any part of the bird feeder. These are a Swedish kind of washcloth that we actually sell in the Wild Birds Unlimited stores. And then you'll just need some things to dry it with. So fortunately, you don't need any tools for this because everything comes apart pretty easily. The first thing we want to do is take the camera out. So flip it forward, disconnect the cable, just tuck it back in there. Flip it forward so that you can get to the thumb screw. And then we're going to unscrew the thumb screw. And that will let the camera come straight out, just like that. We'll set it aside just for a second while we take apart the rest of the components. Then we're going to take the roof off. So we snap up off the back, just like we're going to fill it to feed it. Disconnect the cable that's connected to the solar panels, and then the roof just kind of pops right off. Like that. And then the final piece, we're going to take the base off. This is also attached with the thumb screw on the back. So disconnect that. And then we're just going to kind of shimmy it off the bottom. At this point, it's just held on by friction. Something like that. Now you might notice I've got a different kind of perch because I was testing this metal perch. I actually didn't have it screwed in. Normally this would stay in. Oh, by the way, make sure you empty the feeder. If you've got excess feed in it, either put it in a container or dump it on the ground, depending on how much you have left. So these are the main components we've got: the base, the roof, the perch, which is normally attached, and then the camera. Let's start with the camera. Again, we're not going to submerge any of these components. We're just going to use water, washcloth, and Dawn soap, with the exception of the camera. This I'm going to wash off the outside. And again, do not use anything abrasive. And then we're going to get the lens and the motion sensor. Don't push on the motion sensor. It really wasn't meant to be, it won't pop in, but don't put any pressure on it. And then once that's washed off, just use a paper towel to dry it. And that's good to go. We'll set that aside. The next part I would probably clean is the roof. Now, the only sensitive part here of the roof is the USB-C cable connector to the solar panels. Again, we're not going to submerge this. We simply get a washcloth wet, use a little Dawn, which is what I have in that dispenser, and then wipe off any debris or dirt or bird poop or whatever might be on it. And you can go ahead and wash the inside. Again, just be cautious of getting water into the USB-C port. We're going to make sure that all these components dry thoroughly before we reattach them. So if you do get a little bit of water in the port, it shouldn't matter once it's dried, but you never want to put the pieces back together if you think there's water in any of the ports. So once that's properly washed, this is the only time I would actually put it under water. Make sure that you're pointing it in such a way that it's not going into the USB-C port, just to rinse it off. Then we can just use a paper towel to dry it off. Next piece is the base. This one you can actually get wet directly because there's nothing electronic on this piece. A little bit of Dawn. And here you just want to make sure that the holes get cleared out because those are for water to come out of the base. That one you can just set aside. Now we're on to this piece. Now, obviously, you've got a cable in here, and this cable is going to stay in here. We're not going to take it out. So, again, just don't submerge this. I would just use washcloth with Dawn, get it wet, and then clean the inside as best you can through the sides, the front. Again, this is where you really don't want to use anything abrasive because we don't want anything to scratch the clear plastic here. Move the cable aside. Make sure to get the inside too where the camera sits. It's not going to be perfect. If you really want to do a job on the inside, you actually can take the plastic piece from the back piece, but you will need a screwdriver to disconnect these two pieces. A little more complicated, not really necessary. Rinse the soap out a little bit. Wipe this down. And then this whole thing, we're just going to basically dry off with a paper towel. And then after it's all dry, you can do one more run on the front of the hopper if you want, just to make sure that it's completely clean. That's it. Then we're going to set it up and just let these components dry, probably overnight. That will make sure that if there's any water in the cables or the connector here, that will dry out before you reconnect it. And then it's just reassemble it by putting the base back on with the thumb screw, putting the roof back on, and plugging the cable together, and then putting the camera back in the housing and connecting the cable. And there you have it. Easy ways to clean. If you have any questions, reach out to us, 1-833-459-7770. Thanks, and happy bird reeling.